All right, guys. I've been talking about these protein waffles for a while online, and I've been following Stevie Richards, professional wrestler who works for DDP Yoga. I've been seeing him post about them a lot. I've looked at his recipes for it. He's a cat guy. I'm a dog guy. You'll hear my dogs in the background. I've been tweaking a couple recipes that I've been looking for. And I came up with something that I think is better than his, and um, let me run you through it. So the technique for doing waffles is it's like any cake really, or pancakes or something. You have your dry ingredients and you mix it with your wet ingredients and you let it sit for a couple minutes and then you cook it. So this one here is actually completely gluten free. It starts with oat flour, which if you don't have oat flour, you could take your quick cooking oats and you could actually just blend them up in the food processor or blender, but you could just buy it already done. So I have a cup of that, put that into my bowl. Take a tablespoon of chia seeds for some fiber and some protein and some omega 3s. Little bit of ground cinnamon, half teaspoon, which is an ingredient in Stevie's as well. And I find that it actually gives a really good taste to the waffle. This here is baking powder. It's sodium bicarbonate with cream of tartar. And what this is going to do is actually give you a really fluffy, more cakey style waffle. Gonna put a pinch of kosher salt, probably about a quarter teaspoon or an eighth of a teaspoon, not a lot. Just helps bring out the flavors of everything. Then I have my protein powder here. I'm using Orgain, which is the same powder that Stevie uses. Um, this stuff's okay. It's plant-based protein, derived from pea and a couple other brown rice and stuff. So I'm going to put in 2 scoops, which is the equivalent of about 45 grams of protein. You could actually use any protein powder that you like. I'm using vanilla just because it's kind of a neutral taste that is going to go well with what you're going to see me put on top of these. So if the one thing to remember, if you use a whey-based protein, there's usually lactose in that, and when you put it on your waffle iron, it's going to have a tendency to burn a little quicker, so you want to just keep an eye on that. So with my dry ingredients, I'm just going to mix them together, get them nice and combined. Nothing fancy. And now I'm going to get my wet ingredients going. So you get a cup of liquid. I'm going to use cashew milk. You could use almond milk. You could use skim milk. You could use whole milk. It's really up to you. I'm going to use a whole egg. I'm not really afraid of the yolk. You'll see this recipe has very little fat, all things considered. And so if you don't want to use the whole egg, you could use 2 egg whites. If you use the whites, it's actually going to be a little fluffier. I'm going to put a half teaspoon of vanilla extract. This is actually vanilla extract that my wife is extracting from the beans as we speak. There's that. And I'm going to beat that together, get that to be homogeneous. If you listen carefully, you could actually hear my wife in the background, which is always fun. We're not on a big budget here, so it's alright. Maybe one day we'll get a studio. And then your wet goes into your dry. Now this isn't like this isn't like a normal pancake or waffle batter with all-purpose flour. In that you really can't overmix this, but just to show you the technique, I'm just going to pour it in. I'm going to whisk. And basically you're just stirring to combine. This technique could be adapted to any waffle recipe that you find. So just stir to combine, and then even if you see it being a little clumpy at the very end, that's okay, because the liquid is going to actually dissolve into all the oat flour and protein powder and everything. So that has to sit for about 3 minutes. In the meantime, we'll talk about what I'm going to do inside of the waffle. So I have a cookie dough Quest bar that I actually cut up into little bite-sized nuggets. And once I put the batter on the waffle iron, I'm actually going to dump a couple of these guys in there just for a little bit of a different type of feel. I also have this Arctic Zero. It's like an ice cream substitute. It's gluten free, lactose free, GMO free. It's pretty good. This is kind of my cheat day a little bit, so I'm not really worried about calories too much. But like I said, actually, what I'll do now is run through the macros for this waffle. So the batter we just made up makes 2 waffles. Each waffle has about 400 calories, 58 grams of carbs, where 17 of those are actually fiber, 26 grams of protein, and 12 grams of fat. If you back away with the, instead of using the whole egg, if you use egg whites, it's more like 8 grams of fat per, which is actually pretty low. Even 12 grams of fat. Like I said, I'm not worried about a few grams of fat. So the other thing that I have to top it is some coconut whipped cream, which actually is a recipe from my friend Stacey Morris's Clean Comfort book, which is another DDP Yoga person. So this is actually, as far as DDP Yoga community, this recipe ties in Stevie Richards, Body Rebooted, which is Christina Russell, and Stacey Morris. So it's really something that all of us DDP Yoga people should enjoy. And so what I'm looking for here with the batter is that it's fluffing up, and that's because of the baking powder. The baking powder is a leavening agent, and it actually is going to act twice. So it's going to rise a little in the bowl, and then when it hits the heat, it's going to rise again. So now we're ready to cook our waffle. This is probably really hot. So I'm going to turn it down to medium so I can control the heat a little better. You see it's smoking up a little. What I have actually is a coconut oil spray. I've done this with an olive oil spray. I've done it with a butter spray. It honestly doesn't matter. It doesn't add much to the taste. Aside from the egg, this is completely vegan, I think. So I don't know how you substitute the egg, but maybe just add a little more liquid. So spray your waffle iron down. It's important to get a lot on there because you're really frying. It's kind of it's a high surface area of like fry is what you're doing. So I'm gonna put half my batter onto the waffle iron. I usually go from the center and work my way out. And if you do watch the video on bodyrebooted.com, what you'll see is that theirs is pretty liquidy, whereas mine is pretty heavy, and it's not spreading a lot. But once we actually set the top down on it, it'll actually spread out a little more. And I actually don't. I like to have a little bit of the ridges showing. So put my cookie dough on there. Set it down. And I'll just let it cook. So Stevie, I'm gonna make my way down to the Performance Center later this year, what I want to do is I want to take this. I'm not going to bring my waffle iron, so we'll have to maybe share the one that you got there. But I want to put this recipe up against yours, and maybe we'll have a couple people. Maybe we'll get Christina and Garrett, and maybe Dallas will even join us and try them, and and we'll get a good read on exactly whose is better. I think mine is better. And in your video, you mentioned frittatas. If you're going to be at the retreat, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to be having a cooking demonstration where frittata is going to be on the menu. So if you're going to be there and you want to challenge, you can come up to my demo anytime, and don't be soft. So right now it's cooking. Usually for the first couple of minutes, I don't like to peek on it. I'm gonna wipe down my counter here because I hate a mess. But what you see is happening, it's actually steaming. That's all the liquid is evaporating. Not all of it, but some of it. You see it's cooking pretty good. I don't know. Take a look at that. This only needs a couple more minutes. It's actually almost done. One thing I like to do with my waffle, I really don't like when you put it on a plate and the bottom starts to sog out on you. So what I like to do is go directly onto a wire rack so that the bottom cools down a little bit, and you don't get that sogginess to the bottom of the waffle. When this thing beeps, my dog goes crazy, so you'll probably hear that happen. Alright, so there we go. Pretty much ready to pull this guy out. The trick to it is you kind of gotta... Actually, you know what? I'm going to let that go another minute. It's still kind of soft. It's kind of the theme today. So even with all the fixings that I'm going to have on this, I'm only really the quest bar. I added half of the quest bar, and actually I split that up. Some of it is going to be as on top as a garnish. So for half a quest bar, and also some of that Arctic Zero, and a little bit of the whipped coconut cream. It's really not going to come out to very much. I mean, I think the whole thing is going to be like 600 calories, which it's a breakfast, and again, it's my cheat day, so I'm not too worried about it. Alright, so now we're ready. Cookie dough's starting to get a little dark. You see? It's a nice waffle. It's pretty well held together. It's not really the crispiest thing in the world. That's okay. So you missed it by a couple seconds. So now, take my waffle, take my ice cream, and this is kind of like a play on what Stevie was talking about in his video with, what's on the IHOP menu. I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm hungry, but just want a little taste. And this is more of a brunchy type thing, or like a dessert type waffle. Actually, this recipe is savory enough that you could like take two of the segments and do like kind of like an eggs Benedict kind of thing, where you take your poached eggs. That's pretty cool. So that's enough of that. A little bit of the whipped cream. A little bit more of the cookie dough. And there you have it. That's my protein waffle. You could keep the cookie out of it. Quest makes a whole bunch of different bars. Some of them have there's a brownie bar, there's an apple cinnamon bar. So I mean, if you want to get creative with that, you could add anything you want into this really, and it'll be you make it kind of your own. All right, so now I'll have a taste and try to get everything in one bite. I have my little dog Emma here looking for a bite. I think she could have this. So the oat flour, it has the flavor of oatmeal. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. This doesn't taste like an IHOP waffle, but that's okay. I mean, you really can't eat like that every day. And this is a good little intermediate kind of cheat where, you're eating a bodybuilder's meal, but it's kind of in the guise of something that you would have at like an IHOP or a Denny's or your favorite local brunch place. So I hope you try it. Stevie Richards, I hope to see you at the retreat. If not at the retreat, I'll see you at the Performance Center. And don't be soft.